Hey everyone. In this video, we're going to be talking about the fat-soluble vitamins. We'll discuss what vitamins are, talk about fat-soluble versus water-soluble, and then we'll briefly look at vitamins A, D, E, and K. By the end of the video, you should be able to understand water-soluble versus fat-soluble, and you should be able to describe the structures of the fat-soluble vitamins. So vitamins are organic compounds that your body requires to survive. So to have a healthy metabolism, you need these in your diet. Your body cannot make them. You can group the vitamins into two subcategories, either water soluble or fat soluble. Vitamins B and C dissolve in water. That means that your body is unable to store them and you need them on a regular basis. If you don't get enough vitamin B or C, you get scurvy. And we learned this in like the 1500s when sailors started like sailing, maybe in 1400s, when sailors started sailing across the ocean and they were spending like 3 months at a time just living off of dried crackers and they weren't getting any fresh fruits and vegetables. They started developing all these weird health problems. We called it scurvy. And we later discovered that it was because they weren't getting vitamins B and C. And because your body can't store them, you need them regularly. So you have to get these vitamins, on a daily or weekly basis, or you can start having malnutrition like in a couple months. So pretty quick onset. If you have more than you need, your body just pees it out, right? So if you take a multivitamin with B and C, you're maybe taking more than you need, but the excess just gets peed out in your urine, and so it's no big deal. The other vitamins, A, D, E, and K, are considered fat soluble. They don't dissolve in water on their own, which means that your body is able to store them. So if you take more vitamin E than you need, your body will store it in your fat tissues and in your liver. And then if you don't get it in your diet for months at a time, it's okay because you have it stored up in your body, which is kind of nice. But that means you can also overdose on it. So we discovered this in like the 1800s. Random story, but Arctic explorers in the 1800s were trying to reach the North Pole. And so they're, sailing in wooden ships through the sea ice. And eventually their boats would just get stuck because of the ice sheet. They couldn't sail any further. And in some of those cases, the ice froze around the boat and the boat got trapped in the sea ice and they couldn't sail out. And so they had to survive like all winter in the Arctic. And they ran out of food. And so they started having to search for food in the Arctic. And there's not a lot of food in the Arctic, but what there are polar bears. And so they started hunting polar bears to try and survive. Now, polar bears have evolved to eat seals in the springtime when they're raising baby seals, but then they hibernate all winter. And so polar bears are very efficient at storing extremely high amounts of vitamin A and E in their liver. We didn't know this at the time because nobody was studying polar bear liver. So these Arctic explorers hunted the polar bears, but because they're starving to death, they ate every part of the bear, even the liver. And what it turns out is the liver has such high levels of vitamin A and E that it's toxic to humans. And so these Arctic explorers got overdosed with vitamin A, and a lot of them died from vitamin A overdose. And it was like, it had never happened before in documented history because like nobody had ever eaten that much vitamin A. We didn't know of a food that had that much of it in it. And so like one of the side effects is their skin started like peeling off in like sheets. And so like the bottoms of their feet were just gone, just like walking on like flesh. It was pretty gruesome, pretty crazy. And so now we know that you can actually overdose on vitamin A, D, E, and K because they don't dissolve in water. So if you eat too much of it, you can't just pee it out. It gets trapped in your body and it's like toxic to your liver. So anyway, random tangent, but vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat soluble, and you can actually have too much of them. So let's look at the structures of these vitamins. So vitamin A is found in liver, polar bear liver especially. It's found in fish, dairy products, and it's made from beta carotene. Um, beta carotene is actually the molecule that gives carrots their orange color. So carrots are actually really high in vitamin A as well. It's needed for vision. Your body actually uses this molecule to make the protein in your eyes that absorb light, believe it or not. And so if you don't have enough of this in your diet, you can't make that protein and you start going night blind, which is like a weird side effect. Um, Now, to help you remember this structure, what functional group is that right there? An OH. To me, that looks like an alcohol. And so vitamin A for vitamin alcohol. That's how I remember it. So if I show you this on an exam, the alcohol, it's vitamin A. Now, let's look at vitamin D. So vitamin D is a weird one because it's not technically a vitamin. Your body can actually make this. It can make it from cholesterol, but it's made in the skin, and the catalyst for one of the reaction steps is UV light from the sun. And so this is the sunshine vitamin. You need about 15 minutes of sun exposure for your body to do the chemical reaction to make vitamin D. So if you don't get 15 minutes of sunlight, your body is not making vitamin D. Thankfully, you can also get it from your diet. So if you don't get enough sunlight, you just got to get it in your diet. Not a problem for us. We live in the desert. You walk to class and you've got your vitamin D dosage for the day. But it's actually a problem in some far northern locations, like in Siberia during the wintertime, where they only get like a couple hours of sunlight and it's at like a low angle. They don't get enough UV exposure to make vitamin D. And so they actually have like UV lamps indoors, and like kids will, take their shirt off and sit by the UV lamp for 15 minutes to make sure they get their vitamin D so that they can grow healthy, which is weird to think about, but you do need sunshine to make vitamin D. And if you don't have it, you can get it in your diet. And so it's particularly high in milk, usually because we add it to milk to fortify it. So when you go to the grocery store, you see like vitamin D written on the milk cartons. I don't know why we decided to do milk. I think just because in America, everybody used to drink milk for breakfast. And so they're like, oh, we'll just stick vitamin D in the milk and then everybody has it. Nobody gets seasonal depression. But anyway, it is used for the regulation of calcium and potassium metabolism. And so if you don't have enough vitamin D, you get bone deformities because you can't form the minerals of your bones properly. So it's called rickets. So it's good for your bones. It's also good for your seasonal depression. Let's talk about vitamin E. Vitamin E is an antioxidant. It protects fatty acid side chains from unwanted oxidation. And a vitamin E deficiency causes a lot of neurological problems. It's really rare, but it has been documented. And to help you remember the structure, what functional group is that right there? That looks like an ether. So vitamin E, you can think of it as vitamin ether. Hope that helps. And the last one we're going to look at is vitamin K. Vitamin K regulates the synthesis of blood clotting proteins. And so if you have a deficiency, you don't have blood clotting. So if you like get a cut, it'll just keep bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, and you can like die bleeding to death from like a small cut. if you're super deficient in vitamin K. So the way I remember this structure is I look at that functional group right there, and that looks to me like a ketone. So vitamin K, vitamin ketone. Hope that helps. So that's the end of this video. Once again, fat soluble versus water soluble. B and C are water soluble. A, D, E, and K are fat soluble. A has the alcohol, E has the ether, K has the ketone, and vitamin D is the sunshine vitamin. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you in the last video.